The meeting room got so quiet you could hear a pin drop. I clicked my computer mouse one last time, and there it was, the new money numbers on the big screen. Karen looked at those numbers, and her face went white as a ghost. Her fancy painted nails grabbed the table hard as she saw the $5,000 price jump staring right at her. "What is this mess?" she yelled, her voice getting higher and higher with every word. "Who said we could do this crazy thing? This is just wrong." I fixed my tie and smiled big because I had been waiting for this moment for weeks. "You did this, Karen," I said nice and calm. "The second you made me pay $1,000 for swimming in my own lake. Let me tell you the whole crazy story from the start. My name is David, and I've been living in Willow Creek Estates for 15 long years. When I bought my house, I didn't care about the big 4-bedroom house or the garage that fits 3 cars. What I loved was the beautiful 20-acre lake that came with my house papers. Crystal Lake is what the old owners called it, and it sits right on my land and touches the neighborhood too. For more than 10 years, everything was perfect. My neighbors would wave hello when I took my morning swims. Sometimes I even let the neighborhood have their summer parties on MY part of the lake. Then Karen became the boss of the neighborhood group. You know exactly what kind of person she is. She came to her first meeting with a fancy book, colored tabs, and wanted to make everyone follow her rules. In just 1 month, she sent out 17 warning letters to people for silly things like mailboxes being 2 inches too tall or grass being half an inch too long. She carried around a real ruler in her purse to measure everything. The big trouble started on a pretty Saturday morning in June. I was doing my normal swim, floating on my back and looking at the fluffy clouds when I heard that awful screaming sound from the shore. Hey you, mister." Karen was standing by the water, wearing her special boss jacket, even though it was 90 degrees hot, waving her clipboard like she was going to war. "You need to get out of that water right now." I swam closer, but not too close. Something told me she might try to arrest me with that clipboard. "Good morning, Karen. It's a great day for swimming, isn't it?" "Swimming is not allowed in neighborhood water," she said, reading from her clipboard. "Rule number 7.3.9 says that all water fund needs permission from the boss people and proper insurance papers." I kept swimming in place, feeling really confused. "This is MY Lake, Karen. I own it. You can check the papers at City Hall." She fixed her huge sunglasses that screamed, "I want to talk to your manager," from a mile away. The neighborhood group controls all shared nature spaces in our area. This lake touches neighborhood land, so we are in charge of it. "That's not how owning land works," I said, starting to swim back to my dock. "We'll see what our lawyers think about that," she yelled at me. "Consider yourself warned." I thought that would be the yendi of it. Surely when she looked at the real land papers, she'd see her big mistake. But I was wrong about how stubborn she was and how she could twist the truth to get her way. The official letter came on Monday. It had the fancy neighborhood letterhead and everything. It talked about how I broke the neighborhood rules and said I had to pay $1,000 for using neighborhood stuff without permission. The letter went on for 3 whole pages, talking about made-up rules and saying they'd take me to court if I kept being dangerous to everyone's safety. I tried to be nice about it first. I made copies of my house papers, marking the parts that clearly showed I owned the lake. I included the old map from 1952, the water rights papers, and even a letter from the old neighborhood boss saying the lake was mine. I walked right to Karen's house and gave it all to her. She opened the door wearing another jacket, this one pink, like she had a whole closet full of boss clothes. "David," she said, not even looking at my papers, "you still have to pay the money. The boss people have decided." "The boss people?" I asked. "When did they meet about this?" "Emergency meeting," she said with a fake smile. "We take safety rule breaking very seriously." I found out later that this emergency meeting was just Karen and her 2 best friends meeting at Starbucks. The letters kept coming and coming. She sent one almost every day, each one scarier than the last. She complained to the city, saying I was making something dangerous that would hurt kids. She started telling lies to the neighbors. She told everyone who would listen that I was setting a bad example. Mrs. Henderson from 2 houses away actually asked if it was true that I was planning to build a water park without permission. That's when I decided to stop just defending myself and start fighting back. I spent the next 2 weeks digging through neighborhood papers, rules, contracts, and agreements going back 30 years. And that's when I found the golden ticket. A special agreement from 1998 that let the neighborhood use a piece of MY land to take care of their part of the lake. The agreement included rights to the small beach where they had community parties and the rocky road their work trucks used. Here's the best part. The agreement ended after 25 years unless they made it new again. It was now 2024. Nobody remembered to make it new. I checked everything with my lawyer, who actually laughed when I told him what happened. So she's making you pay money for using your own land while her group is actually trespassing on it, he said. This is going to be so much fun. I waited until the next neighborhood meeting to drop the big news. These meetings were Karen's favorite thing. She ran them like serious government meetings, complete with a little hammer she bought online and strict meeting rules. I signed up to speak and waited for my turn. When she finally called my name, sounding really mean, I stood up with my own fancy folder. Two can play the official papers game. Thank you, Miss President. I started copying her serious voice. I'm here to talk about the agreement between the neighborhood and my land that ran out. The room got super quiet. Karen's little hammer hand started shaking. As you may or may not know, I continued. Giving copies to each boss person, the neighborhood's legal permission to use the North Park Crystal Lake, including the beach and Work Road, ended 6 months ago. I've been nice about the continued trespassing, but because of recent events, I think it's time to make a new deal. Karen's face went from red to white to a color of purple I didn't know people could turn. This is crazy, she yelled, forgetting all about her precious meeting rules. We've used that path for decades. Without legal permission for the past 6 months, I said clearly, my lawyer made a new rental agreement. The terms are pretty fair. The neighborhood can keep using the path for the small yearly fee of... I stopped for drama. $5,000. The gasp from everyone was so loud. Someone's coffee cup actually fell and crashed on the floor. $5,000? Karen screamed, forgetting all about her special meeting rules. That's stealing. That's the normal price for lake access, I said calmly. I had 3 land experts tell me the price. If anything, I'm giving you a discount. Of course, you can say no and lose access completely. I'm sure everyone would understand losing their beach area and having to drive 4 extra miles around the lake for work trucks. The boss people started whispering like crazy to each other. Tom Bradley, the money guy, was already looking up budget numbers on his computer. Karen looked like she was about to faint. You can't do this, she hissed like a snake. Actually, I can, I said, sliding the rental agreement across the table. You have 30 days to decide. After that, I'm putting up a gate. The next 3 weeks were amazing chaos. Word spread through the neighborhood like a wildfire. The same people who had been avoiding me after Karen's lies suddenly had very strong opinions about money responsibility and boss overreach. The Facebook group exploded with demands for emergency money meetings and calls for people to be held responsible. Karen tried everything. She sent stop letters that her lawyer probably charged her a fortune for, only to be told they had no legal power. She tried to claim historical use rights, but couldn't show the necessary papers. She even tried to get the city involved, but they wisely stayed out of civil property fight. Finally, with 2 days left before my deadline and facing a full neighborhood rebellion, the board called an emergency meeting, a real one this time, not a Starbucks coffee meeting. The community center was packed. People were standing everywhere. Someone even set up a live video for people who couldn't come. Karen sat at a main table. Her usual jacket replaced with serious black suit that made her look like she was going to her own funeral, which work-wise she was. The vote was fast and everyone agreed except one person. Karen voted against it, of course, but she was outnumbered 4-1. The rental was approved, the budget was changed, and everyone's neighborhood fees went up to pay for the new cost. What happened after was even better than winning. The same computer warriors who had supported Karen's every silly rule now turned their anger on her. The Facebook group showed detailed breakdowns of how her personal fight had cost every house an extra $160 per year. Someone made a funny picture of her face on the Titanic with the words, "I'll never let go of my clipboard." During the speaking time at the next meeting, person after person stood up to say they were disappointed in the board's leadership. Mrs. Patterson, a retired teacher who hadn't spoken at a meeting in 10 years, gave a particularly devastating speech about money responsibility and the dangers of unchecked power. She ended with, "Maybe some board people should think about whether they're truly helping the community." The petition to remove Karen started that night. Within a week, it had more than enough signatures to trigger a special vote. Karen tried to get her supporters together, but it turns out that making everyone's fees go up because of a personal grudge is a pretty good way to lose friends. I made sure to time my next swim for the morning of the removal vote. As I floated on my back, I could see Karen's car in the community center parking lot. She'd arrived at 6 a.m. to campaign, setting up a table with cookies and papers defending her record. By noon, the cookies were untouched, and she was standing alone. The results were announced that evening. Karen was removed from the board by 87% of the vote, the highest percentage in neighborhood history. I was told, as the results were read, she stood up, holding her leather notebook to her chest like armor. "This is a mistake," she announced to the room, her voice shaking. "I was only trying to keep up standards. You'll be sorry when house values drop." Someone in the back actually laughed out loud. Karen's face fell apart. She grabbed her giant purse and her measuring ruler and stormed out, her high heels clicking on the floor like a countdown to her exile. The new board sent me a formal sorry letter the next week, along with a check giving back my $1,000 fine plus extra money. They suggested a new rental at a much smaller $500 per year with a promise of mutual respect and working together going forward. I said yes immediately. I celebrated by putting up a new sign at the entrance to my part of the lake. In big friendly letters, it said, "Private property, swim free." And below that, in much smaller writing that you had to get close to read, "Neighborhood leadership not welcome." The last I heard, Karen had put her house up for sale. The house seller mentioned something about her taking a job 3 counties away, where presumably no one had heard of the Crystal Lake incident. I like to think there's a neighborhood board somewhere that has no idea what's about to hit them. As for me, I still swim every morning. Sometimes I float on my back and think about that day in the meeting room when I showed that $5,000 increase. The look on Karen's face was worth every penny of lawyer fees and research time. She learned the hard way that sometimes the smallest power can corrupt absolutely, and that swimming in your own lake isn't a crime, no matter what your clipboard says.